So, Stan Grof, I really appreciate that you take your time and be in this interview.
It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, for me as well.
I can't think of a better interviewer.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would like you to tell us about what holotropic breathwork really means.
Well, I think I would start by explaining the word, because it's the word that I coined myself. Mm-hmm. At a certain point, I was working with non-ordinary states, first with psychedelic substances and plants and so on, and then with the holotropic breathwork. And I realized that we really don't have a name for a certain important category of non-ordinary states. That current psychiatry talks about altered states, and they're all considered to be pathological. So many people who have mystical experiences actually get diagnoses. They put on tranquilizers, they get a diagnosis, and so on. So there's an important category of experiences that are healing, transformative, that also provide a lot of new information about consciousness, about the human psyche, which don't deserve that term altered states. Altered means changed, deformed in some way. Suggests that there's a correct way of experiencing ourselves in the world, and the altered states are some kind of a pathological, distorted version of that. But I found out that you cannot say that about the initiatory crisis of the shamans, or the kind of state of mind that the shamans are inducing in their clients or entering themselves. The kind of states that you see in rites of passage of various Aboriginal cultures, the states of mind that the initiates had in the ancient mysteries of death and rebirth, and also the experiences of the yogis, of the Buddhists, of the Taoists, of the Christian mystics. Those are very valuable experiences, healing, transformative, transforming people, and so on. So I decided to make a name for this category of states. I call them holotropic. Holos means whole in Greek, and tropic is from the verb trepein, which means moving in the direction of something. Like the heliotropism is the property of the plant, of the flowers, to always orient themselves towards the sun, follow the sun, aim for the sun, and so on. So holotropic means moving toward wholeness. So it describes a certain subcategory of non-ordinary states which have very positive value. Now, the term moving toward wholeness, holotropic, surprises some people, because it implies that we somehow are not whole the way we are in our everyday state of consciousness. So the best way I would describe what's behind this term is to actually use the kind of a Hindu shorthand. In Hindu religion they would tell you, you are not nama rupa, you are not name and form, you are not body, ego, we would say. You have in the core of your being this sort of a divine spark, Atman, and they would give you a system of exercises, of practices, and if you follow them, you actually get experiential validation for that. It's not some belief, it's something that you can experience. And when you reach that core, Atman, you realize that energy is identical with the energy that created the universe. Atman, Brahman. So from this perspective, we experience ourselves only as a fraction of who we really are. And so holotropic states make it possible for us to reclaim our cosmic status. Sometimes it's small steps, sometimes it's a powerful experience that really takes us all the way to that realization. So that's the term holotropic. That my wife Christina and I when it was not possible to use psychedelics because they were abused on such a wide scale, and there was repressive legislation against them, then we develop this technique of holotropic breath work, when you basically use very simple means, just faster breathing, focused attention on the breathing, kind of a meditative state, very much like what you find in Vipassana Buddhism and some other meditative system. Mm-hmm. We use powerful evocative music, much of it also coming from either shamanic traditions or spiritual traditions. We use kirtans, bhajans, we use Tibetan ritual music, Balinese music, African drumming rhythms, and so on. And then we have a certain form of body work. When the energy is blocked somewhere, after the session, we can sort of help people to clear those blocks.
Mm-hmm. So what you're actually saying is that we all have this inner spark, this inner drive towards wholeness?
Well, that's what the Hindu religion says, but I have been able to confirm it in my own experiences and work with a number of people over the years.
Okay. So now that you are a psychiatrist, would you please share your view about the increasing antidepressant in the world?
Well, one of the things that came out of this research using the holotropic states of consciousness, as I call them, mm-hmm. was that we have in psychiatry an extremely superficial, inadequate model of the human being. The idea is that the psychological history of the individual begins after we are born. Freud said, the newborn is a tabula rasa. There's really nothing that precedes birth, including birth itself. There's no recognition that the whole experience of the birth process has any lasting sort of impact on people, that it has influence on their personality, on their behavior, and so on. Mm-hmm. And this was an error that we had to correct, because without our programming, without our guidance, people would move beyond that biographical level, infancy, childhood, and so on, and they were reliving birth, and then further on they sort of reached all the way into the prenatal life, and then before we knew, people had ancestral experiences, they had experiences from the collective unconscious, past life experiences, and then also experiences of what Jung called the archetypal world, the mythological world. So deities or demonic presences of different cultures, mm-hmm. even cultures that they never heard about or that they didn't intellectually know. So once you have this kind of a large cartography of the psyche, the large model, mm-hmm. then suddenly many of the disorders that the current model cannot explain suddenly make sense. So, for example, depression has very deep roots, not just in the postnatal life, in childhood, infancy, but it's typically connected with a certain stage of the birth process.